Did you know that a business can go bankrupt even whilst making a profit? It's important in business to make a profit or a surplus if you're a not-for-profit organisation, but it is even more important to understand the profile of your cash flow so that you don't run out of cash. Managing the cash flow is about ensuring that you have enough cash to pay expenses as and when they fall due. You do this by having tight control on the movement of cash and forecasting changes in cash availability. Hi, my name is Ellis and I'm a business consultant with CBB. To understand your cash flow profile, you need to ask yourself 3 questions. When are you paid for the services that you provide, whether it's before, at the time or after? When are your expenses due? And who pays you for your services, whether that's government, a bigger organisation or individuals? Your cash flow profile can be simply viewed as when cash comes in and out of your organisation. Let's look in some more detail at the money coming into your business, which is called your revenue. Ideally, you want to invoice and be paid as early as possible, whilst understanding any constraints in the market that you operate within, such as the NDIS, where you can't charge for the service before it's been provided. To examine the cash coming into your organisation, look closely at your revenue and when you receive the cash for the revenue that you generate. Some businesses can be seasonal and receive the majority of their revenue in a short part of the year, but have expenses incurred across the full year. Cash related to revenue will come in at one of 3 time periods, either prior to earning your revenue, so that's when you're prepaid for the services that you provide, and an example of that might be when you get a grant paid to your organisation prior to services being provided. Grants can result in spiky or lumpy cash flow that can be misleading if the incoming payment needs to cover your expenses for, say, the next 3, 6 or even 12 months. Secondly, you might get paid at the same time as earning your revenue, and that's where you're paid for the service or product that you provide at the same time you provide that service. Third, you might get paid after earning your revenue, and that's where you provide the service and paid at a later date. For example, sending it out an invoice that might be paid 7, 14 or 13 days after providing your service. Now let's look at your expenses in more detail. Most of your expenses will fall due almost immediately or within 30 days. To review the cash that leaves your organisation, examine your expenses through the same time periods as the revenue. Often you'll find that expenses require a cash outflow at the time they're incurred or very shortly after. And an example of this is wages, which require a cash outflow shortly after your expense is incurred. Upon reviewing the cash profile of your revenue and expenses, you'll be in a position to understand the overall cash flow profile of your organisation. If, for example, you are generally paid 60 days after the revenue that you generate and pay your expenses as they are incurred, then you'll have a significant cash flow gap, as there will be a time period waiting for you to be paid for your services while you still need to pay your expenses. You should make sure that you understand the patterns of cash flow income and outgoing expenses. Mapping cash flow for the previous period of time, such as 12 months, will help you to see patterns in the demand for cash versus your cash available. Assuming your business is operating on a similar model this year to last year, historical analysis can form the basis of forecasting cash flow and cash requirements going forward. Using a cash flow forecast and tracking variances can help you to see times when additional action might be needed. If historical patterns show points where there is less cash available to pay bills, you may need to look at ways to mitigate for the risk, for example with business changes, possibly an overdraft facility, or reviewing payment terms with your suppliers, which may be able to review and adjust to improve your cash flow, say by paying monthly instead of a year in advance for things like insurance. Our first question has assumed that your clients will pay you on time, but that doesn't always happen. We'll now come back to the third question of who pays you for your services. That could be government, bigger organisations, or individuals. If you're paid after your services are provided, then the risk profile of customers needs to be considered. Cash flow can easily be disrupted when someone is late to pay you. Over time, you'll build up a knowledge of how quickly different customers pay you. Some pay quickly and early, some pay on time, and there'll be some that you'll just need to chase up. In taking on new customers, you should keep an eye on how quickly they pay you and be aware of not providing too many services before payments are made. If this area is a risk for your business, you might need a policy that you will withhold services if payments are more than a certain number of days overdue. This policy needs to consider any potential impact on customers, your reputation, etc. As we close out this video, let's come back to the question that we started from. Did you know that a business can go bankrupt while making a profit? You can go bankrupt if you run out of cash or don't have the ability to pay your bills as and when they fall due. If your profit doesn't flow through to cash at the bank, then this is a risk you're going to have to manage. The key point from this video is to make sure that you understand and manage the cash flow profile of your business. That means understanding when you're paid for your services, when your expenses are due, and the risk profile of those that are paying you. If this video has been useful, then I suggest that you watch the other CBB video entitled Improve Your Billing.